help the CHP here because they can get the registered address of the vehicle and send some units over there and try to figure out who may possibly be behind the wheel. And they can also wait for this person to simply drive home. A lot of people tend to do that when they're in pursuits. They drive to an area that is familiar to them, and for most people that would be home. So they do have the address. I'll wait and see if I can get a city on that. I won't give you the specific address, but for now, he's continuing here southbound 605 freeway. Again, this started out in the IE near the 210 and the 15 freeway, on the southbound 15 freeway to be exact. And it was the CHP then that was in pursuit. It's still the CHP now. It's really only been on the freeway the entire time. We have not heard about it being on the surface streets at any point. So he's just crossing over the 5 freeway, but continuing here on the 605 south. He's now in Downey, and eventually the 605 freeway does come to an end at the 405 in Seal Beach. So we'll see if he goes that far or if he exits before then. He does have a few options. Again, he just passed the 5, so that's no longer an option. But he's got either the 91 or the 105 freeway as possible transitions that are coming up here on the 605. The speeds are fast, folks. Look at that, 100 miles an hour here on the southbound 605. Normally, traffic at around this time starts to lighten up. The heaviest traffic is till about 6 or so, so this is lighter traffic conditions. Committed to the 605 south, because he had an option there of getting on the 105, but it looks like he's committed southbound 605 and really picking up speed here. Anywhere from 90 to 100 miles an hour. Again, the original one is reckless driving. I can. Go ahead, Booth. Oh, okay. Sounds good. Looks like he's going to come our way here. Maybe getting right back on the freeway. That's exactly what he's doing. Southbound still. Yeah, he just got back on. Yeah, he got off and got back on. I can. Go ahead. We're 60591. Yeah, 60591. So kind of like Cerritos area. I think he's set up to go west 91. So let's see. He can switch here at the very last second. He can switch here at the very last second, I think. Oh no, he's doing 91 west. 91 west from the 605, guys. So headed towards Bellflower. Yep, we're ready. Yeah, the vehicle appears to be a BMW, Colleen, and where we're at is the 91 West at Clark, now in the Bellflower area. This guy is just going so quickly that before we know it, he's in the next city. So this is actually all started in the IE on the southbound 15 freeway near the 210 freeway. The CHP tried to pull this guy over because of reckless driving, but the pursuit was on when he failed to yield. He's been driving recklessly ever since at high speeds. You see the speeds there. That's right. I mean, we're looking at speeds that are sometimes in the triple digits. It's unclear, though, how many people may be in the vehicle. It's unclear if the driver is a man or a woman. But the CHP continues to chase him from the ground and the air, continuing westbound here, 91 freeway in Bellflower. Yeah, they actually were just talking about the registered owner of the vehicle because apparently the car is not stolen. So they're able to run the plates and get an address for where this vehicle comes back to, and then they can send officers to wait for that person at their home because a lot of people, when they're involved in police pursuits, tend to return to an area that is familiar to them, and in most cases that is somebody's home. So at this point, they don't believe the car is stolen. The driver was simply driving recklessly. He would have gotten a simple speeding ticket in all likelihood, but instead he decided to take off, and it's been a lengthy chase now, all the way from the 15 and the 15 and the 210 merge, rather, and now we're on the 91 West here in Lakewood. Traffic is pretty much what you're seeing here. It's generally light, but at this time of the day, that's really how it usually is. You see heavier traffic going the opposite direction, so the 91 East is experiencing a lot heavier traffic than what we're seeing here on the 91 West, but it actually looks like he's about to transition. I believe this is going to put him onto the 710 South, so that's going to put him over towards the Long Beach area if he continues here southbound 710 from the 91, but it does appear that that is the direction that he is going. Yeah, so currently he's in North Long Beach already, but from where it terminates, it really isn't too far of a distance considering how quickly he's been driving. And you can see this CHP officer, though, really not giving this guy too much room, staying about 1/8 of a mile behind him or so. There are units that are still behind him. There's an airship overhead. No talk about going into surveillance mode, which is where they pull the units off and they leave the helicopter only. These CHP officers have really been sticking with this guy the entire time. Yeah, just over 100 miles an hour. We really haven't seen speeds much slower than that. The slowest I saw was about 60, but it was simply because he had gotten stuck in some traffic. But now that he has a nice wide open freeway, his foot's on the gas. He's really hitting it here at about 100 miles an hour. Just a simple failure to yield on a southbound 15 freeway near the 210. Again, that would be a simple traffic violation. You get a ticket, and away you go. But in this case, for whatever reason, this driver decided he was not stopping and has been evading the California Highway Patrol ever since. Initially, they had the Ontario police helicopter overhead assisting them with the air unit on that one until the California Highway Patrol could get their own helicopter over the pursuit. And since then, they have come out of Fullerton Airport, and they're overhead now. So this is strictly a CHP pursuit from the ground and the air. Unclear. Yeah, at this point, they're not going to try a pit maneuver because he's driving simply too fast. The vehicle itself is actually perfect for a pit because it's a relatively small vehicle, but under these traffic conditions, they're just not going to try it. And then a spike strip, even though it'd be perfect under these circumstances, they would have to guess what lane this guy is going to be in. And this guy has been all over the freeway, over every freeway. And so it's really difficult to try to guess where would be the perfect spot to deploy a set of spike strips. He might be transitioning here to the 405. He's pretty much right at the transition of the 710 and 405 here in Long Beach. So we'll see what he does as he continues the transition, because he's on that little road there that parallels the 710 freeway. But I'm waiting to see which freeway he decides here at the very last minute. Gonna go, that's under the 405 freeway there. So he should be popping out here in just a moment. Oh yeah, he definitely does see that CHP officer, and it looks like he's gonna do 710 South. We'll know for sure once he completes the transition, but at least for now it does appear that it's a 710 South transition near the 405. He's exiting. Yeah, sorry about that, Colleen. Yeah, he just exited there at the very last minute onto Wardlow. So now he's Wardlow, going to be getting onto Wardlow near Delta. So that CHP officer still staying very close to him, going over the LA River here that parallels the 710 freeway. And still, I see at least 2 units of the California Highway Patrol that are still behind this guy. At this point, it's unclear how many people may be in the car, Colleen, because as you said, the tint on this car is pretty much limo tint all the way around, even in the front. Oftentimes, I get pretty lucky and I can at least see into that front windshield, but in this case, I think I'm out of luck. Possibly this car could have come out of Vegas, where a tint like that is legal, considering that it was coming southbound on the 15 freeway. But at this point, we haven't been able to hear where the vehicle is registered to be able to confirm whether or not it is a California plate or Las Vegas. But he's now in Long Beach, Pacific Avenue at 32nd Street. So now it really does get more dangerous, and I really wish he would have stayed on the freeway, because now you bring in other things into the mix, like pedestrians and red lights and stop signs, cross traffic. So it really does get to be that much more dangerous. Yeah, as far as we know, this is actually the first time he's been on surface streets, because as you remember, this started on the southbound 15 freeway, and it's been on freeways ever since. He transitioned onto that 210 West, then 605 South, and then he essentially has been on the freeway ever since until this very point. Yeah, so he just made a turn here onto Willow, and so now he's entering the city of Signal Hill. And Signal Hill is a tiny little city. It's only about 2 miles, and it's completely surrounded by the city of Long Beach. So he'll be in and out of Signal Hill before we even know it, and he'll be back in Long Beach, which, of course, is patrolled by Long Beach police. So if he stays on surface streets here in the area for some time, then Long Beach police could potentially get involved. Signal Hill police would not, because they have a no pursuit policy, so they wouldn't chase this guy. But there's a possibility that if this goes on long enough on surface streets, Long Beach police could get involved. Yeah, and he's on Long Beach Boulevard, which is a major street here through the area. So he had just, he was going south, but he just made that eastbound turn on a Hill Street. So he's still on surface streets here in the Long Beach area. These are pretty much going to be smaller streets, and I'm just listening there to the CHP real quick, but at this point, it looks like this area for the most part is residential. I'm seeing a lot of apartment complexes, and the way that he is maneuvering on these streets leads me to believe that perhaps he is familiar with this area, because it's a really interesting choice. Every turn that he's making here seems very methodical, like he knows exactly where he's going. Yeah, they're still behind him. They're giving him a little bit of room, and we do still have the airship overhead, and he's calling out every street that this guy is turning on. He just turned on to Martin Luther King, and those units are still close behind, and they'll stay close behind because they're not in surveillance mode, which is where they pull them off and leave the airship only. So we should see them come in a frame here soon. But coming up to PCH here on MLK, so two major streets here in the area. That was a very close call. Wrong side of the road here for just a moment. Here we go. This is it. He got out of the vehicle, and now he's running. I see his keys are still in his hand. He's going to go into this house, but he decided not to at the very last minute. He's going to continue to try to run, but it's really unclear where he thought he was going to go because these officers were really close behind. And I'll widen out the shot to give you the proximity of how close they were. And it looks like he pretty much realized he's not going to be able to go away. Get away from these officers. So the CHP is now approaching him. He is complying. His hands are down on the ground. His legs are spread. And you see these officers with their guns drawn out of an abundance of caution. They're taking him into custody, but they still have to clear the vehicle. They don't know if there was anybody else in this car. So what's going to happen is another team of officers will approach that car. They'll try to clear it, make sure that nobody else is inside, and if nobody else is, then it'll be the end of a pursuit here in Long Beach with one person in custody. Yeah, at this point it appears that he is, unless those people are still inside the vehicle. Sometimes we see situations where there's an animal in the car or even a baby, and we don't see that until the officers approach. But at least in terms of adults, it doesn't appear that anybody else may be inside. But you see where this ended. It seems like it may have ended perhaps near a school or a park. It is a school, actually. So there's actually some students out here. So the CHP is trying to clear them out of the way because, again, officers still have to clear this car to make sure that nobody else is inside. Yeah, they seemed pretty relaxed, as you said, Colleen. And I just heard the code 4, which is the police code for an all clear. So that means that everyone is in custody, and this one man that you see in the center of the shot that led the CHP on a crazy chase is now in custody. It was wanted for failure to yield by the California Highway Patrol, but this guy decided he wasn't stopping and started evading police at 100 miles an hour plus on the southbound 15 to the 210 west, and then proceeded on the 605 south, and eventually just worked the freeways here at high speeds until he got into Long Beach, where he exited onto surface streets, and he was making lots of turns on small residential streets with lots of close calls until he finally simply pulled over here at 15th Street and MLK, just outside of a school, and he tried to run for it, but he didn't get very far. The CHP was close behind with their ground units and helicopter overhead. Copy that. Okay, sounds good.